Great defeaters, new and old, welcome back to the penultimate. Actually, no, it's not the penultimate. It's the penultimate before the penultimate episode of the breakdown. With your host, BaseDaKID. Tony will be here in a little bit, but as you know, he's pulling double duty tonight. He's on the football, although he's a bit of a fraud because his team ain't even playing, but he's on the football. I've literally just finished looking at Man United demolish Barnsley. 7-0 is quite easy for me to kind of switch off at this point. But yeah, we got some fights to talk about. Overall, now I'm not sure how many of the fights we're going to talk about over the weekend. It may just be the main three from the Canelo card. I do think Hernandez and Matisse is gonna have a little conversation about that one. Maybe might get to Nyika, Karpency, and Hemo, Opelu, the rematch. A few other little cards happening. I'm not quite sure at this point. I guess I'll do all of the stuff prior to the weekend before Tony jumps on. I think he's gonna jump on in about 10-15 minutes. And I guess we'll just kind of see where we get to from there. But thank you everyone for rocking. As you can see, obviously it's 9:45. The reason it has started later today is because Tony requested a later start so he could do the football. Funny enough, when I told him he's gonna have to host the show, he said, "Oh, we'll start it earlier and I'll just jump on at 10." Yeah, we know good old Tony, eh? It's alright, he ain't gonna watch this back, so I could talk as much shit as I want right about now. I won't know because I'm professional, as you guys know. But yeah, shout out to everyone who is in attendance. So I'm gonna do a little roll call and I'm gonna get started so that when Tony does jump on, we'll we can kind of get the show done and wrapped up in similar time to what we normally would do. So first and foremost, big up to Star Fox WR45E. Yeah, shout out to you. The last breakdown on the Undefeated channel. Shout out to Philip. No, this ain't the last. There's two more. The last episode, or maybe three more. The last one is actually gonna be Bivol Better Beef. That will be the last one on here, and then we will decide if we're switching over or not. We'll see what the traffic's like. Untraceable in the building as well. Shout out to you. He said didn't catch the fights this weekend. Why should I pay to watch something and I know the outcome beforehand? No, I don't blame you. I didn't pay for it. I watched I watched the majority of the fights the day after, the morning after. I went on Daily Motion. So yeah, there was no reason for you to pay for that. Shout out to man like Mulla in the building as well. Big ups to you. Just got Tony said, I can hear you. I was at the gym. Well, we know where his priorities lay, innit? Keep your eyes on the road, Tony. Yeah. Funny thing is, obviously, Tony don't drive, so that's even more funny. But yeah, so I guess let's kick it off with I saw about 3 of the fights from the Australia card, but there's only a few names that I can remember. So there was Alex Leopai Jr., who most of you may know. Alex Leopai fought Joseph Parker. I think he fought. I swear he fought Derek Chisora back in the day, and I think he's also fought Lucas Brown and a few others like the Scottish, the Australian guys. So, but his son, who I believe is 18, he was a rugby player. I think he was playing rugby, but then decided he wanted to go into the family business of boxing. I'm not sure how tall he is. I think he's about 6'3", but he's got like an 82.5-inch reach. And he's 273 pounds. So he's trying to give Jerome Miller a run for his money. And remember, this is at the age of 18. But, he's Samoan, so he's just naturally just them big set guys. But he had his debut. He had his 3rd professional fight on the weekend. And I can't remember the name of the guy that he fought. but the guy was a debutant, so he was having his professional debut. I do remember that. And Leopold lost the first round. I remember, the guy was cutting angles. He was in and out, sort of pretty good movement, darting about. He was, he had some good finesse on him. Again, apologies, I haven't remembered his name. If I had my other phone with me, I would have relayed it. But no, he did. He did real well, to be honest, in that first round. But from that second round, those body shots started going in. 273 pounds just digging into the rib cage. Eventually, he managed to get to him towards the end of it. He capitulated. Quite a bad knockdown, and he managed to get up, but he was in no fit state to continue. So the referee waved it off. It was a sensible choice. But yo, it's a good. It was a good little debut for Alex Leopold Jr. Then we had Hemo versus Figo Opelu, which was a rematch, and this was a rematch from a fight that they had back in 2021 or 2022, I think, where Opelu actually got the what they call it, the upset. So Ahio was obviously the big prospect. I think at the time he was 8-0. Or no, I think he was 6-0 at the time when that took place. And yeah, he was boxing okay, but he was trying to fight the wrong fight against Opelu in the first match. And based on that, he got caught with a shot. That's me. So yeah, he got caught with a shot. Then he had his arms up. He was in the pocket, sort of taking some shots, but he was still kind of lucid, trying to get himself together. But ultimately, the referee decided to jump in like last minute, and everyone was like, why did you jump in? Why did you jump in? Like yes, he was taking some shots, but he was still protecting himself, etc. Well, in this fight, Hemo tried to box a lot more strategically. He still got pushed about a bit in the first half of the fight, but he managed to nick several rounds. He managed to sort of get himself together to the point that he ended up winning the fight on a split decision. But here are the scorecards. So the first scorecard was 96-94 to Hemo. No, sorry. Yeah, that was the first one. But the second scorecard to him was 99-91. And then the other scorecard to Figo Opelu was 94-96 to him. So I don't know where you get a 7-round swing from in a 10-rounder. It's a bit crazy. But yeah, it was a decent redemption, I suppose. Obviously, he's not going to be able to get the knockout, get the stoppage like Opelu got on him. But such is life. It worked. He got his revenge, I suppose. So I guess he just got enough to move on, see what he does moving forward. Quickly, we'll talk about the main event, which was David Nyika versus Tommy Karpency. I mean, look, Karpency is a natural light heavyweight. Basically, he was just a light heavyweight that didn't have to boil down to make weight for this fight. He came into the ring at 191 pounds. Nyika came in at 199 pounds. I think he rehydrated up to probably about 210, 212, maybe even 215 at the end of it. Karpency barely hydrated at all. So yeah, I said that the fight would be over within 4 rounds, and it ended in the third. I think it was actually right towards the end of the third. The fight ended, but a few things. Karpency had no moments of success in the entire fight. It was, the most he did from time to time was just dip down and try to avoid the overhand or sort of the jab of Nyika. Having said that, Nyika seemed very sort of stationary and flat-footed for a lot of the time. His stance didn't seem very like bouncy, like he was able to cut angles. Everything was just very much up, down, sort of straight up, just trying to inch his way into range to let off a shot. So you could tell he was trying to sit down on everything because there was just no spring and no fluidity in the movement of his legs. And him being 6'6", fighting guys that are like 6'1", 6 foot, I can already tell where the flows are gonna come from him, because he's a bit like Deontay Wilder in that he boxes with a very, very wide stance. That wide stance means that you can't move and evade certain shots or certain type of opponents. You can only hope to maybe block their shots, or maybe if they're short enough, maybe you can lean back and just kind of avoid the shot altogether. But realistically, when you kind of, when you see someone with such a wide stance, it does leave them very, very vulnerable, especially to leaping left hooks or straight rights from an unorthodox position, or potentially, I guess you could even say, maybe even a straight left if they're if the southpaw can manage to get around that lead foot. So a few things he's got to kind of pick up on, but his punch selection is pretty good. He's got good power. Nyika, 29 now. Don't know how much longer he can squeeze down into that squeeze down to cruiserweight. 6'6", a bit like Jordan Thompson. When you're that tall, how much are you really killing yourself to get down to the weight? How long can you do it? I would assume Nyika will be at bridgerweight or heavyweight by the end of 2025, unless they can keep him like boxing every couple of months now, like every 2-3 months, just getting the rest of these learning fights in and then step him up to bridgerweight. They do think he'll be a future cruiserweight champ, but the guys that are around at the minute, I don't think he's got the beating of, and I don't think he's going to be good enough to beat them in a timely fashion before his body tells him you can no longer make this weight safely. So that's kind of my prediction on that. But he has got some good skills, and obviously he was a pretty good amateur. So, I'll shout him out in that regard and say blessings. I see Jonah 31 just made it into the building. Salute to you. Toby Bartlett as well. Salute, Toby. And Ryan Hutchison as well. Shout out to you, Ryan. Toby, I felt for the New Zealand people having to pay pay-per-view. Well, the Australians more so, because the fight was actually in Australia, even though, Nyika's a New Zealander. I think, what was it? I think they had to pay $40, but that's like Australian dollars. So I don't know what the currency conversion for that is. I would assume it's probably closer to about maybe £28, maybe something like that. But you guys can see the big main man himself, Tony, has joined us fresh from the gym. I know he didn't necessarily like my my assumptions as to what he was doing, but shout out to Tony.
We ain't playing Europa League football, bro. Even though Arsenal playing on Thursday, we're Champions League, bro. You should know that. Big up everybody.
What's that got to do with anything? I said you was watching football. I just said, but it was being. I said it was being a general because Arsenal ain't even playing today. That's all I said. But what's that got to do with Europa?
Because I'm not interested in this. Is Arsenal. I don't watch other teams like some people do. I'm not like KG, like the Tottenham Arsenal hate along. Like, man's a Man United supporter, and he's doing a stream to watch Arsenal and Tottenham batter each other. Who does that?
So I thought you were just a football fan in general, just want to watch all football that's on the TV.
Yeah, I get that. I'm kind of peculiar like that. Maybe that I just like to see my team. I have a number of teams. I like a lot of teams around the world, so I follow those teams specifically, i.e. Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Roma, Dortmund, Flamengo.
So basically, you're a glory hunter.
I'm not, because not all my teams are always winners. I mean, you know, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. Yeah, we ain't won nothing for generations. Yeah, for my sins,
Yeah, but the Dolphins are basically the Man United of the States.
They ain't even close to being Man United, bro. They ain't got that kind of dynasty. Man United created a dynasty. Dolphins ain't got that. Yeah, we had the one thing that the Dolphins and Arsenal have got. They both got a perfect season. Yeah, didn't win, didn't lose a game.
Okay, well, yeah, you got a question there, Tony. You might want to answer that.
No, I'm literally stinky up. I came straight from the gym. I'm stinky up. So, listen, let's get this show out of the world so I can get in the shower. Because, yeah.
No, I think he's just asking you generally, do you shower or do you bathe? He didn't say, did you now?
No, I think he meant now because, this is...
No, he didn't, because he said do. He didn't say did you. He said, do you shower or bathe?
No, of course. I mean, you know.
No, but you're a teacher and you're messing up the grammar. What's going on with you?
The man means, did I shake? Did I
No, he didn't, because he would have said did you. He didn't ask did you.
Reword your question. Did you mean do I always after or because that would be a hygiene thing, bro. I mean, who goes to the gym and doesn't shower after? That's a hygiene.
Exactly. So he's asking you generally, do you shower or do you bathe after gym? He's asking that specific question.
So here's what I would generally do, depending on how strenuous my workout is. I would shower, and if my muscles are aching, I would then have a muscle salt bath with magnesium salts, yeah, and then I would have a shower after, yeah, because initially you want to get rid of the sweat, yeah, but you don't want to go into a bath with all that sweat and go in the water. So you need to get rid of that, yeah, get yourself clean. Then you need to relax the muscles. So that's where the salts comes in, yeah. If you don't know, go to Saver, the cheap toiletries place. Yeah, they do a thing called Recover. Brilliant product. It's got eucalyptus in it. Yeah, magnesium salts with eucalyptus. Brilliant product. So you're getting refreshing at the same time as the muscles getting the good stuff. And as I said, when I finish that, exfoliate and get in the shower again.
All I heard is that your water bill is nuts every month. That's what I heard.
Oh dear.
All right. Listen, enough of the bants. We've had a good one. Let's let the people have a night to themselves because it's 10 o'clock. Right. So I did the heavy lifting of all the old stuff. So next, all we've got is Hernandez and Matisse to go Mendoza Ramos from that card. Then we'll go to PBC. Did you watch any of the fights from Friday night?
No, I did not.
Okay. So I've got more heavy lifting to do. Fine, thank you, Tony. Yeah, apologies, Philip. All right, so Muller, talk to him. He gets a bit in depth certain times. Okay, so there was what was Mendoza's first name? I can't remember Eva's first name, but it was Mendoza Serrano. And the other guy was Ramos something. But yeah, either way, ladies and gentlemen, without going into too much details, it was a third round knockout, but it was one of the most beautiful no talk uppercuts you're ever gonna see. This would be one of the normal times where Tony would actually have some footage, but he doesn't today. But where it is, literally, if I can sort of try to reenact it, right? So you had Mendoza, so he stepped forward with a shot. He went over the top initially, and Ramos ducked underneath it. So Ramos is backing up, and then as he sort of steps in, he dips underneath, and just as he's dipping, with no tail on the punch, no nothing, Mendoza just literally just uppercut right up the middle. Barely twists his body, barely talks. Boom! Just a shot came out of nowhere, hits Mendoza straight on the chin, basically takes his legs away from that moment. He falls straight to the ground. He actually, his face ends up hitting the side of Mendoza's shoulder as he's on the way down. On the floor, his legs just literally aren't working, neither his arms. He tries to get his arms underneath him to try and get up. They're falling and slipping and sliding all over the place. The legs are just folded at this point, and the referee waves it off. But to see the shot itself, the shot was very, very, it was a very sweet shot. So if you get a chance, go on the zone, just have a look at the highlights. They might even have the highlights on the YouTube channel. It's worth it just to see that particularly. But yeah, it was a really fun one. Now, skipping really briefly to the main event so that we can talk about obviously the PBC card. We had Eduardo Hernandez versus Thomas Matisse. This fight was basically it was a pressure fighter versus a pure boxer with a little bit of spite in their shots. He's probably, you could maybe say he's more of a boxer puncher, but he very much takes his time. Matisse likes to set his shots up, likes to, you know, use the periphery of the ring, likes to take his time, find his angles, find his shots, and then deliver them. Whereas Eduardo Hernandez is very much a person that's going to keep you he's going to just keep you engaged, keep you working. He's going to try to walk you down. He's going to try to throw combinations, push you to the ropes, and kind of just unleash combos and just unload at that time. Now, the first couple of rounds played out very much like Matisse was getting pushed around the ring a little bit. He was circling the perimeter, getting pushed to the corners at times, taking some shots to the arms, couple body shots. You know, he was slipping a lot of the headshots, grazing, rolling underneath them. So he was being very sort of defensive, but he wasn't at no point was he ever flustered or panicked. He was very calm under pressure. And that was one thing that I've seen with Thomas Matisse in the past. Like he never really gets flustered. He never is worried. He never looks uncomfortable. He's just, you know, it's almost like he's just in there, always surveying, sometimes surveying way too long. But that's, you know, that's kind of always been his methodology. Tough, never been knocked out. As I said, very defensively responsible. So first couple rounds, he was pretty much getting pressured, getting pounded, by Rocky Hernandez. Then in the third and fourth round, he started trying to dip to the body a little bit. He was trying to stab to the gut. He was trying to find a couple shots over the top. There was a head clash that happened at the end of the second round, which took place underneath the right eye of Rocky Hernandez, caused a massive abrasion, big cut. Then in the fourth round, Matisse he backed off onto the ropes and ended up catching Hernandez with a sweet counter uppercut, as Hernandez dipped in. So as he's caught him, he's grazed the side of his eye on the left hand side. Is split open his eyelid, which has caused quite a, you know, it's not a terrible cut. Like I've seen a lot worse, but the blood was you know, it was pouring, and it was pouring down straight into the eye as opposed to down the side. So, but in that moment, the two of them, their heads kind of came together when he sort of got up off of the clinch, and Hernandez sort of wiped his eye. So I think the referee thought that it happened as a result of a head clash. And in that moment, you had you unfortunately, it went to round sort of 5 and round 6, where now Matisse actually started getting on top of the fight, and he was peppering Hernandez with big combos, big uppercuts, straight punches. You know, Hernandez was still chasing him like around the ring, trying to get his distance, trying to actually get into the fight itself. But you know, you could now visibly see Matisse was unloading heavy shots, and Hernandez wasn't very comfortable with what he was experiencing. To the point in the 6th round, the at the end of the 6th round, the corner, I'm not sure if it was the corner or the ref or the doctor specifically, but they were complaining about head clashes. They were complaining about the cuts on his face, and the doctor ultimately came over, had a look at him, and decided that, yeah, that cut's pretty bad. I think we should stop this fight. So the fight got waved off at the end of the 6th round. Matisse and the team thought they had won via TKO, but then the referee went over to them and basically said that the fight was stopped due to the second cut that was caused by a head clash, and so we're going to go to a technical decision. At that point, Matisse was fuming because he knows that he knows he lost like the first 3 or 4 rounds of the fight. Sort of trying to get distance and sort of work things out and figure out the angles and everything. And him and the whole team was complaining, saying that wasn't caused by no head, but we didn't clash no heads, and that cut's not even that bad. There ain't no reason for you to stop the fight. And they were just angry. So it went to the decision, and eventually there was 3 different scorecards. I think one was 59-55. I think one was 58-55, and I think the other one was 57-56, I believe. Or it was 59, or it might have been 59, 56, 59, 55, and 58, 55. It was one of those. Either way, they all went to Rocky Hernandez. Thomas Matisse and the team, like livid, basically stormed out of the ring. No post-fight interviews, no talking to any media. They just went straight down the tunnel. So I'm sure that they're probably going to complain and ask for a rematch or something. I think they deserve it, but I don't know if they'll get it. But Eduardo said, "Oh, yeah, they said all week all they wanted to do was cut me. All they wanted to do was cut me." And he's edged with his head on a couple of occasions. He said he's not happy with how the fight ended, etc. But yeah, that was pretty much what took place in that card overall. The other 2 fights on the card, they was okay. It was nothing special. It was like just the main 2 fights that were the ones to watch. Neither of them really got going as such, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about those ones. But it was a decent Friday and Saturday morning, which obviously led us to Saturday night, and the I guess the big card that wasn't that big. But Tony, I'll let you sort of talk about the fights that you saw from there, and what your thoughts were, and what you liked and what you didn't like.
Okay, so I managed to quickly pull up a very quick snippet of the Mendoza Ramos fight for you. So explaining, having listened to you explain what you saw here, ladies and gentlemen, is that uppercut that base explained. There you go. Okay, so we're moving on to the main event on Saturday night. The only bit of boxing I watched this weekend. Obviously, people who follow me will know that I had a hefty weekend with the ACLT gala dinner Saturday night. To say that that was a very successful event would be an understatement. In fact, from that dinner, I managed to acquire this nice little piece. Yeah, I was the winner in the silent auction. A lot of celebrities were there, and they raised a lot of money for a charity that I have been involved with since inception, to be honest. And one of my greatest achievements working with the charity was to get David Hay to nominate the ACLT charity when he bet Derek Chisora £10,000 that whoever stops the other one, should there be a stoppage, would pay money to the charity of their choice. So as a result of Hay stopping Chisora paid £10,000 to the ACLT charity. But that's my Saturday night. Right. So we are going to talk about 3 fights in the main. But I know you did want to mention Romain Villa versus Ricardo
Salas Rodriguez.
Yeah, there we go. And there was the
Yeah,
end,
just
my
basically,
friend.
just essentially, Roman Villa was the heavy favorite. He was expected to win. Obviously, people saw what he did with Rashidi Ellis, and that fight. People obviously saw his loss to Boots Ennis, but the fact it was a very, Boots had to go a good, or was it 10 rounds before he managed to get him out of there. So this wasn't his first fight back since. I think he did have one other, but this was like his comeback to the mainstay. And my opinion was that he would be they was sort of trying to bring him back to make him an opponent for someone else. But like Ricardo Salas Rodriguez had other ideas, and from what I remember seeing, a pretty good back and forth. He got knocked out in 3 rounds, so that may be the end of the usefulness of Roman Villa. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that for the people who were potentially watching and who saw. But yeah, that was it for that.
Cool. So then we move on to talk about Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumby. And I'll be honest with you, like many a person that I've listened to since, very few people knew who Trevor McCumby was. Came into this fight with a record of 28-0-0. He had fought 3 times in the last 2 years, twice in 23 and once in 24. But prior to 23, he hadn't fought since 2018. So it was one of those where you're like, who is this guy? Later found out that he had a very decent and lengthy amateur career. Now you can see he's a little bit weird looking. I can say that the mustache very much Nathan Heaney type. But yeah, look at his record there: 2 fights in 23, 1 in 24, but no fight between 2018 and 2023. But he was there to give it his best, and he did just that. And it was quite an entertaining fight between him and Caleb. A lot of histrionics. As you can see Caleb there doing the dancing in the ring and putting the arms up at the side, But this had come after he had been himself dropped by McCumby in the early rounds, and essentially McCumby seemed to be riding on the success that he had, and figured that he might stand a chance of potentially stopping Caleb Plant. So he was involved in what was a shootout for many rounds. In terms of the rounds, McCumby's dropped Caleb in the 4th round. I gave Caleb the 1st round. I gave McCumby the 2nd, Caleb the 3rd. McCumby gets a 10-8 in the 4th. And then from there on in, Caleb then got to work and started to really, instigate, trying to take over this battle, and effectively began to sit down on his punches. And as you know, he's known for his sweet hands, and those sweet hands would end up stopping McCumby in the 9th round. And then you get to see the combination punches of Plant. It's a nice stoppage. As you can see from that angle, McCumby got his hand tangled in the ropes. Reminded me of Larry Holmes against Mike Tyson, when you think there's a shot that might reverse the fortune of the fight, but unfortunately for him, that rope stopped that punch connecting or even getting close, and as a result, he took 2 severe hooks as a result of being tied up and being open because the hand is away from his face, unable to defend him, and the referee stepped in. I thought it was a good professional display from Caleb Plant. We weren't sure where he was going to land in terms of, having been, out of the picture for a little while, and, contractually, I'm not sure what the hell was going on, but obviously this was a great launch pad for him to get his name back in the scene, and for him to grab onto an interim title. I think there was a title involved because I saw him with a belt at the end of it. But yeah, good performance from McCumby in terms of, look, he showed heart and spirit against a world-class operator in Caleb Plant. But it's eventually, there's levels to this game, and Caleb was clearly a level above McCumby and was able to see the fight to its finish in the ninth. Your thoughts, Base?
Yeah, so I guess prior to the fight, like most people, I'd never heard of Trevor McCumby. Did some research and was luckily to be told some parts of it on the broadcast as well. But he was actually a very decorated amateur. He was a very special amateur and a very special talent in the American boxing scene as a youth, to the point that he was actually given special dispensation to turn pro at the age of 17, when usually you have to be 18 and above to turn pro in the States. But that's how highly a decorated amateur he was, and how much he had won as an amateur, that they had given him dispensation. And then it had some, I don't know if it was family issues or whatever, but his heart wasn't really in boxing. He kind of was floating in and out. But you could see from just the first round that he had very good shape. He had a good construct. To then I found out that he was actually a former top rank fighter. So, and if you know anything about former top rank fighters, even the worst ones are usually pretty well schooled with either a good amateur pedigree or a good set of fundamentals. So no idea what it was that, sort of derailed him or made him go off the boil, but you can see there's definitely remnants of a good fighter in there. And in the first round, Caleb was specifically trying to sit in front of McCumby, as opposed to the boxer moving that most people were used to him seeing. But I think a lot of that was a conscientious effort to make sure that, number one, he wouldn't tire himself out by excessive movement, but number two, to show that he's got some grit, and he's been working with Breadman Edwards in terms of, being able to sit in the pocket, being able to trade and break fighters down rather than just outboxing them. And it almost came a cropper for him, because in the second round he got hit with a body shot, which it didn't even land cleanly on him, but basically threw him straight off balance, and he went careering into the ropes. Then later on, I think it was that same round in the second, he got caught with a big overhand right by McCumby, which hit him straight on the chin. And then McCumby he followed up, but as he followed in, I think a part of his head sort of hit Caleb's chin, but Caleb ended up going down. The referee said, it was a slip. But no, he legit got put down, and it was a shame it didn't actually get counted. He then gets hit in the fourth round with a left hook that basically hits him in the shoulder, hits him in the arm and the shoulder with so much force that it knocks him out of the ring. And he finally gets counted on that one, even though technically the shot didn't land in any scoring part of the actual the body. But yeah, he still took the knockdown. That wasn't the last time he was buzzed in the fight. He got buzzed one other time, but he sat in the pocket after a while, figured out how he was going to make things work, and he started just digging to the body of McCumby. And as you saw there, he had those little combinations from time after time. I feel like McCumby he started to run out of gas after like 3-4 rounds. And I feel like he started just resorting to maybe one or two big punches around after that, whereby Caleb was actually working. And I think him working and making McCumby have to follow up and have to land and have to be, sort of have to really sort of get to it was what sort of I think won him the fight. But unlike Tony, I don't agree with the stoppage. I think it was actually a bit of a poor stoppage overall. He in the exchange itself, McCumby was trading. He was also landing. Yeah, he got caught up in the ropes in one moment. He took one shot clean, but then the rest of the shots, he had his arms up. He was blocking most of them. He still was trying to exchange. And even after that, he fell into the bottom rope. So at the very worst case, the ref should have gave him a count to say, okay, the ropes held you up, take the count, because he wasn't out on his feet taking punishment. Like, he just basically fell. And, Caleb Plant at that point had been down on the canvas 3 times, 2 which should have been counted. 1 was a throw, but he'd been on the canvas 3 times, been knocked into the ropes twice, and he was given every consideration. So I don't see any reason why McCumby couldn't have been given a count to see, is he still able to continue? Because as soon as the ref stopped it, he was jogging up and down, like, waiting. He even said to the ref, like, what are you doing? The bell's gone. I'm getting to my corner. So I don't think the stoppage was fair at the time, although the writing itself was on the wall, and Caleb did come back into the fight after some very rocky moments. So overall, to me, it was the fight of the night. It was the fight of the weekend. It had a little bit of everything, some showboating, some heart and some grit, some big punches, and some rock'em sock'em just trading action, as well as some skillful setups. So it had a little bit of everything. I enjoyed what I saw, and I definitely, now that I know who he is, want to see McCumby again, and again and again with all of the other with either the contenders or the nearly guys, or maybe the hot prospects coming up in the division. I want to see what he can do against those guys, because he can definitely handle himself. But yeah, that was my thoughts on it.
Cool. We have a new member in the chat, or a new person in the chat. The beauty of the pencil. Greetings to yourself, young man or young lady. Welcome to our chat, and I hope you enjoy the show. Do hit that like and subscribe, and be able to see the content from the channel, which doesn't only include myself and Base, but also includes KG and Travis from Monday Night Smoke, as well as their other boxing talks that they have sometimes during the week. If it went to decision, McCumby would have won, says T the Villain. I don't think so myself. As I said, I kind of saw him in the fight early, but once Caleb sort of worked out what was coming, how it was coming, how awkward it was going to be, he started to box very well. And I gave Caleb, every round after, I think, round 4 or round 5. And he said effectively, I believe, wow, look at the size of that spider. I like spiders, but that is a big ass spider. Huge. Sorry, guys. So the corner of my eye, this like huge thing just started walking across the floor, still there. So yeah, I believe that Caleb would have won that comfortably. Did you talk about the robbery on the PBC card? Yes.
No, I think they're referring to Stephen Fulton. I think
Okay,
they
no.
classed that as a robbery. I'm not sure. From what I saw of it, it looked like he won more rounds than he lost, but he did basically anytime he got touched, he got moved. Up at 126 for the first time. I don't know if 126 is going to suit him. Obviously, he's tight at the weight of 122. Hasn't made that for over a year, but he doesn't have the power to keep people off of him at 126. And ultimately, now I think he's I think he's like mandatory to face Nick Ball, which isn't going to work for you if you can't punch to keep him off of you. Because you're not just going to be able to outbox him for 12 rounds. He will get to you eventually unless you've got a shot that makes him conscious. Like the same way Ray Ford had a shot that made him have to think about things. Stephen Fulton ain't got that shot. So that will be a very interesting opportunity, but it's not one that I favor him in at this point in time. But I think he's gonna need a couple more fights to acclimate to the weight. Maybe do some fast explosion work just to see if he can get and generate some more power, build a little more muscle. But yeah, otherwise he's in trouble.
Philip answer says, if Benavidez is truly a monster, how is it that he can't drop Plant, but McCumby can? That's possible because the Plant that McCumby faces is has already been through the wars. He's been through the fire, so to speak. And when you go to the mountaintop, everything raises. Like literally, he went to that point where he was in against his biggest opponent to date.
No, Tony, you're wrong already. Because before we fought Benavidez, Canelo knocked him out. So if Canelo's knocking him out and Benavidez can't even floor him, that's basically what Philip is saying. Like Benavidez ain't what people say he is. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, but there could be a legit reason why McCumby gets that drop, but Benavidez doesn't, because in that fight against Benavidez, Plant really puts on his A game. You know, we've seen that. We can see a guy who might in one occasion appear to look punchy. He goes in with a killer and he lasts. And you're like, how the hell did he get through that? That can happen. We both did it at the same time. So, you know, it's one of them. Just because A beats B doesn't mean C beats A. All that.
But we're not talking about A beating B and C beat. What we're talking about is the fact that the guy that's supposed to be the monster of the division is the one person that can't drop him, but the two small guys can.
Okay, do you doubt his power?
Who, Benavidez?
Yeah.
100%.
You don't think he really has that?
I don't think he's got power at all. If you look at his record, it's littered with a lot of 154 and 160-pound guys that came up.
Okay.
And McCumby, funnily enough, speaking of if you check it, technically Benavidez should be 175-pounder. And he is that. That's when he's got up to now. McCumby was he campaigned at 175 pounds and he came down to super middle. So he basically did the same thing that that Benavidez did. The difference is his power carries properly.
Okay.
But anyway, back to the boxing.
Right. So next fight that we're gonna review will be the chief supporting bout for this show, which was I was about to say Brian Lara, but of course Brian Lara is a fantastic world-class cricketer.
Erislandy Lara.
Thank you, sir. Erislandy Lara against Danny Garcia. Now, in this one, the record's 30-3 versus 37-3. 41-year-old Erislandy Lara against 36-year-old Danny Garcia. And to me, the difference was activity. This is Lara's activity since 2020, 4 fights. And this is Garcia's 2 fights in 2020, 1 in 22, and nothing since. And the last one was that loss. So, yeah, this was going to be an interesting battle. 2 faded fighters to me. Lara, who, you know, at one time in his career was a supreme boxer. Some would say he handed Canelo his second loss in what was a very tight fight with Canelo Alvarez. But on this occasion, and in fact, based on previous performances, he's not quite as slick and as fast as he used to be. But what he lacks in that, he seems to have gained in just know-how. Now, I put the punch stats up here because the punch stats were very telling. All the punches through rounds 1 to 7 in every round was a one-sided punch stat for Lara. It was only in round 8 that Garcia actually punched and landed more punches than Lara. That was the only round of the entire fight. And what I noticed with the punch stats, and particularly watching the fight, is Danny Garcia suffered because of his inactivity. Because it looked like in his head he was calculating where punches would be and when they could be thrown, but he actually wasn't throwing the punches. And that was the biggest problem I saw all night long, was effectively Lara was just letting his hands go. He was moving around Garcia. He was picking his jab. He was choosing his counter shot because he's a very good counter puncher, and landing his shots because he has also very good footwork, which you expect from a Cuban fighter anyway. Yeah. But Danny Garcia just couldn't work himself out. He couldn't work out what he needed to do. The things that we have seen in the past that we could go, oh, Danny Garcia is a great pressure fighter. He's able to negotiate himself into good positioning, like we saw him against Amir Khan, where he could offload those big hooks, which he's very successful at doing. He couldn't do that on Saturday night. He just didn't know how to get himself motivated and tactically able to land shots, which we in the past know he was able to do. We know he could punch, but at no point in those early 7 rounds was he actually showing us anything that made us think, you know what, there's a remnant of the old Danny Garcia where, you know, he could force a fighter into a battle which would work in his favor. This was, in my eyes, for a faded Erislandy Lara, meat and drink. He literally just outboxed Danny Garcia all around the ring, spinning him when he needed to, slipping under his punches, you know, making him miss badly, and just popping his own punches and 1-2s when he needed to. He didn't do anything that was technically difficult. He didn't do anything that was over adventurous. He never, you know, tried to do anything in the fight that you could go, he tried to press down on the gas pedal and take the man out. He just kept working at a steady pace, rat-a-tat-tat, do your stuff, hit your opponent, move out of the way, start again. Over and over, round after round. And as I said, it wasn't until round 8 that Danny Garcia decided, you know, or he must have received some instruction to say, you know, look, you're blowing this. And he tried a little bit harder in round 8, that was the one round where you could see he was able to actually hit Erislandy Lara with a little bit more regularity than he had done in any of the previous 7 rounds. And effectively, I gave him that as his sole round. But then came round 9, and Erislandy put himself back in a position to win the fight. And then he basically was able to drop Danny Garcia, which looks like a throwaway punch. Might have to just show it again, because when you look at the punch, that he kind of, from the southpaw stance, he throws a right, and then he's kind of walking away and he throws a left, and it catches Danny Garcia flush in the face. But it doesn't look anything like, you know, a really powerful shot. But it does enough to drop Danny Garcia. He does get up. He goes back to the corner, has a chat with his dad in the corner, and basically he decides, nah, I'm done. I'm not getting any any better in this fight. This guy's moving around me for fun, and effectively he's able to. He tells the referee in the corner, I've had enough, and it's all over. Base, over to you.
All of that fumbling around just to not say that the guy quit. But listen, I'm gonna be totally real with you. Yeah, you gave Danny Garcia 1 round. You're being very, very generous. I gave him nothing. Lara did not come out of first gear this entire fight. He, ultimately, you're looking at Danny Garcia trying. What is with all that noise?
Sorry, I caught the spider.
Listen, no.
Caught the spider and put him out the window.
All right, lovely stuff. Go on mute, please. Yeah, so Lara was literally in first gear the entire time this fight took place. Now, it was a horrible fight to watch, but that doesn't mean that Lara wasn't immaculate in what he was doing. I think he's got like a 7 or a 9-inch reach advantage over Danny Garcia. And Danny Garcia thought he was going to win the fight trying to box him on the outside and counterpunch. Literally, that's what he did from round 1 up to like round 7. Then obviously, yeah, round 8 he tried to throw a bit more shots, but then from round 7, round 8 onwards, Lara just started in playing the backhand a little bit. Now he's starting to throw that straight left in. Danny didn't know what to do. All the way to the point where you see basically in the 9th round, he throws the jab out on the right side. Danny tries to run and Lara literally just walks at him. And then as soon as Danny tries to switch angles, Lara at this point, who's basically bringing his who started to bring his left foot forward, throws that backhand out, but the backhand became almost became like a lead jab, because he was literally square on at the time when he threw it. And that punch the punch discombobulated Danny Garcia, sort of knocked him for 6, stumbled him, took a knee, realized at that point, wow, like, that's I don't like this. Like, ref, I think we got to call this. And the ref said to the corner, what do you guys want to stop this fight? And, Angel Garcia said, Danny, it's on you. It's your call. He said, yeah, I'm done. He quit. I'm not saying whether quitting is good or bad, or if it makes him a quitter or anything, or if it's a negative, but by contextual terms and letters of the law, he said he ain't want no more. He wanted out of there, and he gave up on his stool for Erislandy Lara to remain the oldest champion in circulation at the minute. So congrats to Lara for having probably one of the easiest fights of his career. At his advanced stage, at a time when he doesn't want to move his legs as much as he used to. He sits down on his shots a little more, decides to throw throw big punches and actually get knockouts rather than win on points. Yeah, he probably had one of his easiest nights and easiest paydays he'll ever have. If I was him, I'd actually send Danny Garcia a Christmas card or a birthday card just to say thanks for the payday. Like, because that's how easy it was. That was literally like just getting a bonus from work just for turning up. That's literally how it felt. So yeah, I mean, look, but all that does do, further compounds the fact of what I've been saying. Danny Garcia was actually never that good a fighter. He flattered to deceive a lot. 140, 147. He was on that PBC diet, got beat by anyone of any relevance, and that was one of the wins people was lauding Errol Spence for. So now that's just another thing making detracting from Errol Spence's record and his legacy. So well done for that one, Danny Garcia. But yeah, enjoy retirement. That's pretty much all I could say. He's made some good money. I don't really want to hear the rapping, but if that's what you want to do instead of getting punched in the face, good on you. That's my thoughts.
Cool. So that leads us, ladies and gentlemen, to the last fight of the night, which we'll be reviewing, which was the main event from that weekend's fight in Las Vegas, and that is Saul Alvarez Canelo, 61-2-2, up against Edgar Berlanga, 22-0-0, and what most people saw as a potential one-sided beatdown. Not many gave Berlanga any chance of seeing the final round, but he did. See a bit of the action, or some of the pictures of the action. To be honest, again, when you look at each round and you break it down, this was again one of those fights where literally it was one-way action for the whole fight. This is Canelo's action since 2020. As you can see, lots of fights in that period. In the same period, Berlanga has had a lot less fight, and look at those names, a proper list of nobodies. Which is why ultimately, we looked at this fight and went, there's levels to this game. And Berlanga clearly hadn't deserved his chance because he had fought nobody at a level that gave you any confidence, or significant win that made you think that, he's deserving of a world title shot. So effectively gave Canelo every round of this 12-round fight. Third round, you can see there, Canelo with his vaunted left hook, a beautiful shot. It's a long left hook, drops Edgar Berlanga. Berlanga punches his own gloves on the floor, shocked that he's even been dropped. But he gets up and he goes on to be a significant player in most of the rounds, but he never, as I said, wins any of them. A few histrionics between the two at certain points in the fight, as you saw just previously. One point where Canelo felt he had been headbutted unnecessarily, and he clocked Berlanga with an overhand right that to most people probably would have put them down. That overhand right reminded me of Floyd Mayweather against Ortiz, when Ortiz dropped his hands to say, "I'm sorry," and then he got clocked by Floyd. Well, on this occasion, Berlanga was strong enough to hold on to the punch. Probably able to deal with Canelo's power because he's a huge guy. Reportedly came in weighing in excess of 200 pounds. And yeah, he's a big guy. But yeah, Canelo, good job. We'll wait and see where he wants to go next, whether he wants to go up to 175 and, fight one of the killers up there. or whether he wants to get engaged with David Benavidez, who's been calling his name, or another name. But I'm not really sure how much left he's got in the tank and what he wants to do. He's excluded himself from Turkey Al Sheikh and Riyadh season. But I'm pretty certain that if, the right moves are made, then we might indeed see Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez, because the money would be too great for him to refuse. But we shall see. Base, over to you.
Well, he hasn't actually excluded himself. He said that those fights can happen. He said if people want them and the money is there, he'll take the fights. So, I struggled to give Edgar Berlanga a round in this fight. I know one of the judges gave him 3 rounds, and I know 2 of the other judges gave him 2. I think that would be an extremely generous. I think that was literally just the rounds there he threw any hands at all is what ultimately got him any decision. As soon as that 3rd round came in, he opened up and obviously got clocked. Is as soon as it took him to get on his bike and start trying to, walk the periphery of the ring, trying to at times get out of the corners, but he just wasn't really slick enough to do so. Yeah, he tried to fight Canelo off from time to time, but he was just pretty much outgunned, and Canelo was actually trying to get him to let his hands go, because every time he did, he was catching him in between the shots, to the point where Berlanga was, he was being intentionally dirty, trying to throw in low blows, going in with his head. At one point, it looked like he was looking to bite Canelo the same as he did to Roman Gulo, but I guess he just that urge didn't quite get to him close enough. But and the way Canelo's footwork in the fight was brilliant for the most part, because he didn't have to go chasing Berlanga around. He was able to conserve energy. But I think after a certain point in the fight, he thought, this guy's not exchanging with me the way that I need him to. He's just trying to tuck up and cover up. So I'm just going to continue to beat him up. And if he capitulates, then great. But if he doesn't, then I'll just, keep giving him a beating. I'll just keep giving him the that punishment. And I think he was quite reveling in a lot of that work, to be honest. But yeah, I said it before and I'll say it again. I think that the beating that Edgar Berlanga took, if he takes the game seriously, could give him so much experience and so much stuff to work with down the line, similar to what happened with Daniel Dubois and Alexander Usyk. Daniel has become much better since then, since gaining all of that necessary experience. If Edgar goes down the same path, then he can do something similar. But outside of that, it was just, I feel bad for anyone who obviously had to pay the $90 for that in the States. I didn't pay for it over here. I'm glad I didn't. And even though the fight wasn't quote unquote boring in the sense that like nothing happened, it was just uneventful and boring in the sense that it was a foregone conclusion. So yeah, and then Edgar's whole he was my idol growing up, and I never even got to talk to him before the fight was signed, so I just had to do what I was like, I don't want to hear all of that. Like, if anything, tell us that like in a couple of months, innit? I don't need to hear you talk that in the ring, which basically just ultimately goes to say that all the stuff you was talking, like, I'm gonna knock you out, I'm gonna shock the world. And you're like, well, I was just happy to share the ring. I'm happy to go 12 rounds. So basically, that you're saying that you stopped trying after a certain point. So all those people paying all that big money, and you basically admitted that you didn't try to win. You just tried to survive. Yeah, I need to see what Canelo's going to do moving forward. I think that he needs. I mean, to be honest, whatever he does do, I actually don't particularly mind at the moment, especially if he's going to start giving up belts if mandatories get called. I don't have an issue. And I've always got a choice not to watch the fights if I don't want to, or not to pay for them, as I did. So, yeah, based on his resume and his record before, I give him a lot of grace to kind of do certain things that he wants to do. But that just doesn't mean that I have to partake in it. And, you know, if I see another Berlanga-like opponent, it will be the same thing. I will not be purchasing. I will not be watching live. I won't be doing a watch along or anything. I'll be, you know, I will be waiting until the following day and watching it for free on Daily Motion or any other channel that I have or app that I use. And yeah, that's pretty much that. And to be honest, it shouldn't be pay-per-view over here in the first place. That's, you know, again, nasty
Mexican
work from
market.
the
Mexican market is what does that 750,000 buys. I'm thinking, because you know,
Mexican American in Mexico, his fights are free. Okay. They don't pay for his fights in Mexico.
So he's definitely got his market. You know, his figures are anything from, you know, 500,000 up to 2 million. So, you know, this guy is without a doubt a hit factory. So yeah, it's not unusual that he done 750,000 buys, because we've seen him do huge numbers against Munguia and people who generally just didn't even deserve to be in the same ring as him, Rocky Fielding. Anyway, so ladies and gents, that is our breakdown complete. Thank you very much for joining us this week. As Base has alluded to, you know, we're a few shows from calling it a day. You can catch me, YouTube, Pugilistboy. Catch me on Instagram, Pugilistic Boy. And on X, Pugilistboy.
As for me, BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual, you can see there. I need to actually record something for tomorrow. I think I need to do my basis picks for the undercard, so I'll be sorting that out. There will be a casual stream, but I'm supposed to also be going to do to watch these matches at the Wembley edition workout. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen or if it's going to get moved to Thursday. Wait and see. But yeah, Instagram BaseDaKID, Threads BaseDaKID as well. Twitter XB_A_S_E, TikTok BaseDaKID.thc. Make sure you guys get involved. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. We will catch you next week. Be a big episode there. But yeah,
if
enjoy yourself.
At Wembley tomorrow or Friday or Saturday, look out for me, Danny, Base.
Just you and Danny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will be about, and yeah, come see us if you do see us walking by. Always appreciate when defeaters come up and say hello, whether it be at Carnival or any other kind of event that I somehow seem to always run across defeaters. But yeah, have a good weekend, everyone, and we'll catch you next week on the other side.
Peace.
Peace.